Hello again, and my guest today is a dear friend and an absolute powerhouse. She started her career belting out on Broadway, then somehow traded show tunes for spreadsheets in the consulting world. And now she's helping couples untangle their emotional stresses as a relationship coach. I mean, talk about a plot twist. We're diving into what really takes to reinvent yourself. Spoiler, it's not always glamorous. And what she's learned from working with couples in the trenches, and how her own story has shaped the way she shows up in love and life. It's honest, it's funny, it's a little emotional, and I'm hoping to learn right along with you today because of how Terry has reinvented herself from Broadway to Boardrooms and now retirement. If today's conversation resonates with you, please be sure to subscribe, please leave a review, and share this episode with someone who might need to hear it. So grab your coffee or whatever gets you through the day, and let's sit down and talk with the fabulous Terry Mason. Family Dynamic Conversations, where families and stories come in all shapes and sizes. I come from a family of 12. You may be an only child. What matters is caring, sharing, and finding ways to relate to one another. Welcome back to Family Dynamic Conversations podcast, the show where we talk about all things family, relationships, and the beautiful chaos of being human. I'm your host, Janice Kingsbury, and today's episode is extra special for me because I'm joined by someone who I have been acquainted with a long time, but rarely get the chance to have a one-on-one conversation with her. So thank you for joining me, Terry Mason. How are you?
I am wonderful. It's so good to be here with you.
It's so great to see you and finally talk with you.
I
We've been planning this for a little while. Let's start with the basics. How many in your family and what number are you in that sibling order?
I have one older brother and that's it.
That's
the
it?
two of us. Yep.
All right. And your upbringing, was it a strict upbringing? Was it pretty open and supportive?
It was very open and supportive. My dad was a musician first. He's a professional singer. He sang with the San Francisco Opera, and then he would sing on cruise ships, and then he started teaching music in schools, and he did that for many, many, many years. And in the summers, he conducted musicals, a community theater production musical every summer. So he was in creative and into music, and that's where I got my musical inclination and approval. My mom was a journalism major in college, and she worked in journalism when I was a little kid. And then she went back to school in the late 60s to UC Berkeley, which was pretty exciting, and got her master's in social work.
Wow.
So, yeah, and both my parents were very liberal, very socially conscious in the 60s, all about the civil rights era. Civil rights movement. My mom was also into historic preservation, and my mom was into conservation before the word ecology hit. It was conservation. And so we had, at one point I counted in high school, we had 17 different trash receptacles in our house.
Wow.
Because she had found places to recycle so many different things, because that's before they had the big blue bin. So she had found places all over the Bay Area, which we lived, to recycle egg cartons over here and colored glass over here and white glass over here. And so It was, So
which it should be today, but it's not. It's just like throw it all in together and then hopefully it gets separated.
Yeah, in theory it gets all separated, but she had to find all these different places to do this. And I gave her hell one time. I said, Mom, you're driving all this way to drop off this or that, whatever, and you're polluting the air, and I don't know. And she said, no, but Terry, we have to do this, because if we do this, eventually it'll be so that everyone will do it and it'll be easy at the curb.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I don't know. That doesn't sound realistic.
Whatever, Mom.
Yeah, exactly.
And now we're in this.
Exactly. Now we do it all the time. Now it's normal. So yeah.
Thank you, Mom.
She was right. Very forward thinking. So my parents were both very supportive, very liberal, very open, but there were, in terms of being strict, there were some real, there was real structure around our house, partly because my dad was a type 1 diabetic.
Oh,
So there were strict rules on what food we had in the house. We didn't have cookies and candy and stuff like that in the house. We had,
interesting.
special occasions or birthday, we would have birthday cake, or Christmas, we would have candy, Easter, things like that. But on a regular basis, dessert was a piece of fruit. It was not, didn't do regular candy stuff and cookie stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we had regular meal times because that was important for Dad. So we all sat down and had dinner together every night, the four of us. There was very few exceptions.
Well, this explains so much about you and your wonderful hosting abilities, your wonderful conscientious Peace Alliance organization, your Broadway musical. My gosh, it all just kind of trickles down and resonates so beautifully with you. That's what I had no idea. Thank you for sharing all that. That's fantastic. So very good. Now, I heard you did tell a story one time about the first time you wore makeup. Can you please share that story? I love that story.
So again, my mom was crunchy granola woman. She led Sierra Club hikes, loved being outdoors, didn't like being in the kitchen. She liked being in the garden. She would do as little in the house as possible. She wanted to be outdoors. She wanted to be running and riding her bike. She rode her bike all over the base. So anyway, we got a second car so she could go back to school at Berkeley. It was and she was frustrated because she didn't really want to do that. She always wanted to be outdoors. Her dad was a mountain guy, so she grew up in Mount Delmabias. And so, so it was all, so she didn't wear makeup. I mean, once in a while she'd put on some red lipstick. That was about it. And I don't know where I got this from. There was no real influence in my life that presented this, but I started in, Girl Scouts. I guess it was because some of my friends were kind of thinking about it, but I don't remember conversations about it.
Yeah.
But I remember there was a magazine when I was in like 6th grade, 7th grade, called American Girl Magazine, and it was a Girl Scout little publication.
Nice.
And they had articles about wearing makeup and the right and appropriate way to wear makeup, and they had pictures and guidelines and like drawings and this is what you buy. And at this point, my dad was a vice principal at a junior high, not the one I was going to, a different one. And at this point, very often girls in our class would go into they'd come to school with no makeup on, go into the bathroom, and then come out with like bright blue eyeshadow and big thick black eyeliner and big thick black mascara and these pale pink lips and it was like really garish and loud and crazy, but that was the style for girls at the time. I wasn't interested in that. I'd been doing these Broadway musicals every summer, the community theater musicals, so I knew how to apply makeup and doing that. And I didn't want to do that. I just wanted something really simple, really plain. And so I asked Mom and Dad, can I use my allowance to buy makeup? Absolutely not. It was just like, they weren't usually that firm about things. They usually said, let's have a conversation about it. But they were just like, no, absolutely not. And I'm just like, no, but no, you were not to buy makeup. You were never, no, you're way too young. Makeup.
Oh my goodness.
I was just like, holy moly. So I saved up my allowance for a few weeks and I went to our little downtown drugstore and I went to the makeup counter and I showed the girl, the American Girl magazine layout of this, what I wanted to look like. And she helped me pick out a little peach colored blush and a little brown mascara, a little brown eyeshadow, and told me, this on the diagram, this is what this is for. So I went home. Didn't tell Mom and Dad. I broke the rules. I went and bought this stuff with my allowance. I went against so I didn't tell them. So one night before family dinner, I locked myself in the bathroom for like an hour. And I tried to put it on, and again, I learned how to put makeup on in the summer musicals. I wasn't totally new, but trying to look like the picture in the magazine. That was the goal. So I think I put it on and washed it off like 4 times. And I finally got it where I thought it looked right. I thought it looked good. And I thought I looked really pretty.
Yeah.
And so I went out to have dinner and I was absolutely positive that everyone at the table would go, oh my goodness, you look so beautiful. What have you done? No one noticed. No one noticed a thing at all.
Well, that's a good thing.
all the way through dinner. Well, it turned out to be a good thing, but if I was somewhat
I'm shocked.
insulted that they didn't see how beautiful I looked, And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
went all the way through dinner. And finally, it was like almost at the end of dinner. And I just said, does anyone notice anything about me that's different? And my mom and my dad and my brother are looking at me like,
Oh my gosh.
no, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm wearing makeup. No, you are not. Yes, I am. I'm wearing shadow and mascara and blush. And oh, this is the makeup I want to wear. Oh, well, you can wear that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Goodness gracious.
Oh my God.
I love that story. I remember going to the little makeup counters at the drugstore because it was just a walk downtown, and it was so fun but complicated to try and figure out what exactly
having the little picture was helpful. The magazine saying, this is what I want to look like.
So you survived. That's fantastic.
I did. And my parents, said, okay, well, we should have listened to you. And you said you should have. There was a little learning on both sides. And that came back later. For another story where they should have listened to me and they didn't. And it was just a similar thing. I wanted this and they were like, no. And I was like, and I finally explained to them that's okay. It's like,
just take a breath. Trust me a little bit.
Yeah, really. Do I ever steer you wrong?
How many times do I have to prove myself?
Exactly.
I love it. Okay. So, dear listeners and those that are watching, I am a huge Broadway musical fan. Absolutely huge. I worked for the Civic Light Opera of the South Bay Cities. We did Crazy for You, pretty much where I met Bill. I mean, I love musical theater. And now I am speaking to a wonderful performer, actress, singer, dancer. And I know you just had a reunion recently. How did that go? What's your favorite memories about all that?
Oh, it was fun. Yeah, and I did 3 big Broadway musicals on tour. I didn't play Broadway, but did on tour. First one was Annie. The second one was 42nd Street, and the third one was Cats.
Nice.
So the reunion we recently had was a 42nd Street tour. So I did it for a year in Los Angeles, and then we toured for a year and a half and closed with 6 weeks in Tokyo, which was awesome.
Oh my
gosh. It was all awesome. It was a wonderful group of people, and many have stayed in touch, stayed close, followed each other's lives through the years. But it's literally, Janice, it's been 40 years. Since we started that tour. Yeah.
Oh my 85. Gosh.
I know. It's just like, yeah. So, but a couple of the folks live in New York, and they said a few months back, we're coming to LA. And I said, well, then we're having a party because that's what we do. One of them ended up not coming, but 2 of them did come out from New York, and we had a bunch of people around LA and their spouses, and even one brought his grown son, who was the son of our leading lady on the road.
Oh my gosh.
She passed away when the grown son was only 3 of cancer. And so many people in the tour had never met Cameron. And one guy in particular was so excited to meet Cameron. And so Cameron came, thankfully. Cameron is totally different than his mom. He's big into science. He had to leave early because he's studying to be in the PhD program at UCLA.
Dang.
So yeah, exactly.
Well done.
So his dad was a college professor, but he said very comically, I don't help him with his homework anymore. Yeah, I guess not. But yeah, it was lovely. We had a wonderful time. There was including family members, there was about 35 people here, and we just had a fabulous time. It was a lot of fun.
I just know that you create these families. Working backstage, I was never courageous enough or talented enough to be on the stage, but I loved backstage. And working in wardrobe, those people just became family. So I totally understand. I mean, night after night after night, year after year, you're doing these same things, and it just creates this bond that is so strong. So that makes my heart feel good knowing that you guys got together and still
Yeah.
communicate with
No,
each other.
it's really true, and it's interesting because 42nd Street in particular had kind of an interesting ending because of our
Okay.
6 weeks in Tokyo. David
Yeah.
Merrick was the producer, and what he sold to the NHK Hall, which was opening with 42nd Street, he sold them that he would send the Broadway company of 42nd Street.
Oh,
Well, it
okay.
was still playing on Broadway, so it's like how's this gonna
Wait,
work?
wait a minute. Yeah.
And so what he did was he took our touring company and moved our principals to Broadway while we were in Tokyo, and moved the Broadway principals to Tokyo to perform with us. So we had
Wow.
different people in the leading roles that we had for the
Interesting.
year and a half that we'd been on tour. So
Goodness.
our family was kind of broken up, and
Yeah.
the feeling was
Separated.
different on stage and stuff. And it was
Right.
interesting because the gal who played Anytime Annie in Broadway and came to us said that the choreographer, Karen Baker, had said to her, if you go to that company, if you show them love, they will give you love back. And
Ah,
she said, and that's exactly what happened because we were
nice.
known as the Love Company.
Oh,
But the truth is, New York, I mean, Broadway, I love Broadway theater, but it's different when you're on the road because of what you just talked about. When you're on the road, you have the performers, you have the management, you have the musicians, you have the
hmm.
crew, and
Yeah.
everyone is traveling together, especially on what we call the bus and truck tour. Because we literally were traveling, once a week, twice a week, and getting
Wow.
on these buses and like riding to the next city. So
Yeah.
we lived together as a family, day in, day out, in all these different theaters, experiencing all these different cities.
That's
New
right.
York, people get up, they live their lives, they go to the show, they go back home. So they develop a connection because of being in the show, because theater's just like that.
Yes.
But being on the road is just different. There's a
Big
different
time.
kind of. I had a cousin who was into sociology, and he said, "How many people are on your tour?" And I said, "About 100." And he said, "That's interesting because sociologically speaking, anything less than 100 people can live and work together. If it's more than 100, then it requires government. It requires something to be
Yeah.
built to support it."
Wow. Wow.
So we had management, so we had government in a sense, but it
Yeah.
was that kind of a connection. It's like we're all in this together.
That's
And there
right.
wasn't a separation in this company in particular. There wasn't a separation from the principals with the chorus or from the performers with the stage crew or the
Yeah.
musicians. It's like everybody just blended together, and we were all just one big happy group. I mean, it
And you
was
had to depend on each other. Each
yes,
person had their responsibility.
yeah,
Each part was important, whether
yeah,
they're changing your outfit or helping you with makeup and hair or
yeah.
whatever. The thing is
Yes.
that you have to trust those people
Yeah.
with your performance. So,
Yeah. And too, I mean, yes, and because you worked wardrobes, so but you
yeah.
can imagine in a company like that, we had, I think, two, maybe three wardrobe people that traveled with us.
Hmm.
And then in every city that we went to, there was a local crew
More.
that came in. So it was like one electrician, two carpenters, two prop people, two
Yeah.
wardrobe, two hairdresser. The hairdressers didn't add really; they were just the ones that toured. But all
Okay.
the different areas backstage had all the local crew that came in, and the leads who were touring with us had to train these people every time.
You had the local people coming in,
Right,
and then you still had your core group. So,
right. So, like the lead wardrobe people would need to, train essentially like a
oh,
dozen new people in the local crew
wow.
to do all the presets and the fixing things and getting ready. I mean, we had 22 women and 12 men in the show, just in the chorus. So, and it's like when we run off a stage to make a costume change, they've got to be in place because we have a lot of quick ones.
No,
So,
that's right. So you talked about how your parents and mostly your dad with the singing and acting that kind of inspired you to get
mm,
started in this whole process, which is
yeah.
is wonderful. So how
Mm.
many years were you on stage?
Um, for the big Broadway tours, the better part of a decade. Before that, I was in a little musical review that played in a small Equity Waiver theater in Hollywood for 2 years. Did
Nice.
another small show that ran for 12 weeks. And, so there's some smaller theater work. And then I also
Sure.
sang with bands during that time. I sang with the Top 40 band in 1979 and for
Yeah.
6 months that played all around So I sang in bands from the time I was 15. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
so I a big band that toured, and so I started performing fairly young and
Yeah,
just
that's
kept going.
so great. So great. And
So
when you
lucky.
say kept going, this always amazes me with performers like you that there is this constant, you have to audition over and over again if
Hmm.
there's the part you want to play, but there's this idea of rejection. What keeps you motivated? What keeps you inspired to keep trying?
That's so interesting. I believe that people who choose performing really have no other options in their heart.
In their heart.
In
Nicely
their
put.
heart. They may be skilled in other things, may have gotten a degree, a major or minor in something else. Their parents may have said, please have a backup plan. So they're,
Yeah.
they're all those things,
Yeah.
but really in their heart, it's the only thing that they can do, the only
Nice.
thing that's possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that sort of level of this is it. This is all there is, kind of a thing.
Okay.
And in addition, when you audition, you really have to look at the audition as your work.
Okay.
This is your chance to shine. It's your chance to show what you can do. Once you land a role and you're doing that show, especially in theater, then that's what you're doing. Just that limited scope of what you're doing for the whole show.
Mhm.
And even if you're playing the leading role in a great show, it's still, that's all you are doing.
Yeah.
And you may have much broader skills. If you're doing a dramatic role, you may have great comedy skills. If you're doing a straight play, you may have singing skills. So you have a lot of things that you're able to do.
Yeah.
Whatever you end up being cast in, that's what you're doing. So
Okay.
auditions are this place for you to just say, here I am. This is what I'm capable of. And it could be, you just have 8 bars of a ballad and 8 bars of a upbeat and a time step and a double pirouette, and that's the end of the day. But it's still, this is your chance to, ta-da, to be
Right.
you and to show yourself. And then when you get a callback, then there's more interaction and you can do more. But
Yeah.
it's really your opportunity to show what you're capable of. And
Such a
then you walk, and
Go
then you
ahead.
walk away and it's done because that you performed that day. That's your performance, and you move
Yeah.
on.
You're right. Well, such a great perspective and nothing I ever thought about. I just thought it
Mm.
was this heavy thing that you like you said, it's the end all be all of what you want to do in life, which is great, and that gives you that drive, but that idea of the rejection doesn't just lay you flat. It's like, hey, this is where I get to go and do what I know how to do and shine. That's such
Yeah.
a great perspective. Thank
I
you.
mean, in reality, and I used to go and talk to, drama departments in high schools when I was on the road
Oh,
and visit to share some of the experiences that I was having because that was exciting for them and inspiring for them, and it was fun for me.
yeah.
But in reality, at least back in the 80s, and I'm sure it's probably similar now, 95% of the union is not working at any given time.
Wow.
Yeah, which
90%.
means 95. So
95.
yeah, so no, a lot of that, especially in Screen Actors Guild, maybe because there's a lot of people that get in and then they do some work and then they don't do it anymore, like
I
me,
see.
and maintain your membership. So you
Okay.
maintain your memberships, and there's a lot of people like that really
Mhm.
not actively involved.
Okay.
But what that means, though, is if you sort of extrapolate that number, it means you're looking for work 95% of the time and working 5% of the time. So your job is to look for work. Your job is to audition.
Yeah.
The audition isn't the painful penance. It's the opportunity.
Uh,
And then when you get a job, it's woohoo.
yeah.
But really the looking is majority of what you end up doing, and
Interesting.
until you're like, unless you're some big star. But
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
just a working actor, then you're looking for the next thing. And just like any other business too, you network, you meet people along the way, and then somebody you met in one show will call you for the next show and you go audition for that. And so you
Yeah.
build your network of people that are your connections to the next things. And so that happens too. And that's any business. That's not
Yeah.
just the entertainment field, but in
True.
the entertainment field, it's just as true.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's just so beautifully put, and I appreciate that perspective on that. When did you actually just stop performing on stage, singing or with the bands? When did that
Yeah,
happen?
1990. So I finished Cats in the end of 89
Okay.
and I went back to LA. I left the show. That tour continued for another 8 years. That tour was the bus and truck tour, and it toured the country more than 10 years before it closed.
Dang.
And it was a bus and truck. It was brutal. There was a winter of 89, I think, 4 months that we averaged 3 cities a week.
Oh my God.
In the winter time. Yeah. It was pretty
It's
nutty.
insane.
Yeah, yeah. I
Oh,
mean, so it gets really tiring.
yeah.
But I had a marvelous time. I'm so grateful. And when they confirmed in spring of that year that they were going to Anchorage, Alaska, in
Oh,
September, I said I'm staying for that because
okay.
I didn't know if I'd ever have a chance to go to Alaska again.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
stuck around for that, and then one stop after that, and then I left. But then I went back to LA, and I was faced with, what are my options? So I could
Yeah.
continue to try and get, television, film, commercials in LA, which I'd never been successful at. I
Okay.
could try and do more theater in LA, not a lot of theater in LA. I could
Mm,
go to New York and pursue theater there I'd had a couple, shows, so maybe I'd be lucky.
yeah.
And I was engaged to someone at the time. We ended up not getting married, but I was engaged to someone at the time who had been on the
Okay.
crew of Cats, and he'd left Cats. And at this point, he was going to be on the crew of Phantom of the Opera, the shirt you're wearing, in
Yeah.
Chicago for 1 year,
Okay.
and it was going to start in January. And I was like, well, that's good. That could work because there's a lot of good theater in Chicago.
Mm,
I can go and be with Gary and do, theater in Chicago and then see what happens after the year, see if I
yeah.
want to stay in Chicago or maybe then I want to go to New York or back to LA or, who knows, but that would
Right.
be cool. Then I could be with Gary and still do theater and that would be fun. So I
Okay.
did. I packed up my Cocker Spaniel and I drove my Toyota Corolla hatchback across the country and we moved to Chicago.
All
And
right.
Gary, of course, was starting to work right away, and I was like getting settled in and stuff. And then I did have a couple friends there, so in theater from tours, so they were
Okay.
able to kind of give me a clue, like you go look in this paper for auditions and da da da. So I went on, Janice. I went on about a half a dozen auditions,
Yeah.
and I realized that I just didn't care if I got the show.
Oh,
Remember what
yeah.
I said before about it's in your heart, the only
Yep.
thing.
Yep. Yeah.
It wasn't there anymore.
No, you're
And
done.
I was, as much as it was very clear to me, it was terrifying
Oh, I
because
suppose.
it was
Yeah.
the only thing I ever wanted to do from the time I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I never
Yeah.
thought about doing anything else. I mean, I had a day job. I was typing legal secretary stuff, but I never had any other career
Yeah.
aspirations. And
Interesting.
I was
Wow.
just like, oh no,
Facing it. Yeah.
now what?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
so I sort of did a lot of meditation and kind of sort
Good.
of thinking about what's presenting itself and what opportunities are there, and truthfully the whole concept of home had taken on a whole new meaning from traveling so many years.
Right. Wow. I bet.
And so I
Bet.
thought, I think I want to help people find a home.
Ah.
So I got a real estate license.
What? Reinvention number one. I don't know.
Yep,
Okay.
there we go.
Okay.
Got a real estate license and took the class, took the test, became licensed. And on a Sunday, I'd go pick up the Chicago Tribune newspaper and I looked in the want ads and I went
Yeah.
through the whole section on real estate and circled the ads where they were looking for new licensees.
Nice.
There were 17 of them.
Wow.
And so on Monday, I called 3 and
Okay.
made appointments to see those people on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do more than that because I figured 3 rejections in one day was enough. I knew I was going to be rejected. I'm an actor. So
Goes with the territory. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
it's just like, I know I'm going to get rejected, so I'll do 3 and then move on from there. But just, do 3 at first and then. So I went to all 3 interviews and all 3 offered me the job.
Wow.
So I went home
Yay.
and poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the couch and said, the real world is so strange. They just offer you the job. What is this about?
What's happening?
What is happening? Exactly. Of course, in retrospect, of course, it's like they don't pay you unless they pay you commissions. If your personality is something they think is worthwhile, then that's they'll give that a shot. Well, the third one though was really interesting. It was what in Chicago they called locator services. So if you're looking for an apartment in Chicago, you show up at one of these places, and they're real estate agents. They're licensed. They take them out, they show them like a few things for like an hour, and if they want something and they rent it, then the landlord pays the real estate company the fee. So it doesn't cost the renter anything. Yeah. So I talked to the owner of this place, and she said, Terry, you're new to Chicago and you're new to real estate, and you don't even know if you're going to like it. So if you do rentals, you will accomplish a couple things. You will get to know the city. You will get to know the real estate market. You'll get to know the different kinds of properties that exist. And in rentals, you'll turn over clients quickly and you'll get paid within 30 days. Because our commissions come in quickly. Yeah. And I'm like, you're making way too much sense here.
Yeah.
So needless to say, I started working for that company. And that woman is still one of my dearest friends.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Good advice.
So 6 months into it, and another reinvention, 6 months into it, she had 3 passive partners that owned apartment buildings. And they thought, great, they can fill up our buildings. Yeah. Awesome. Right. And about 6 months into it, these 3 guys said, we want to close it down. Mm. And she had a legal agreement with them, so she couldn't, exercise and take it away. Okay. But me, along with 4 other people who were full-time doing this, said, we don't want to go do that. We want to keep doing what we're doing. We just want to do our own thing. And so we went to her and said, can we just keep going? And she said, if you want to keep going, I'll have to talk to the guys and see what their terms might be, but you will have to reincorporate with a different name, and you'll have to move the office to a different place. So we wouldn't have the name recognition or the location anymore. But, we still would have all the relationships with the rental buildings that we were working with and all the listings and stuff we could duplicate. So she went to talk to the guys, and this was back when you had telephones.
Connected to the desk.
Yeah. And there was like a whole series of telephones in the office that were all connected to each other. God, and there was a lease that was on this telephone conglomerate that needed to be paid out for the next, 2 years or something. Yeah. So the guys basically said, if you guys pick up the lease, you can have it. You can have the company. Just you have to reincorporate with a different name. It was like $40 a month, Janice. It was like nothing. And we're like, we can do that. And we get the phones.
Problem solved.
Exactly. So we did. We reincorporated with a new name. We moved our offices to this cool loft space on the second floor of a building that we were renting. And it was down the street from a very cool neighborhood in Lincoln Park. And it was just like awesome. So then there were just 5 of us, and after a year, one of us moved away, and we sort of elected her as president, and I was the CFO, and one of my partner's mother came down from Minneapolis because she was a computer geek from back in the 40s when computers took up a whole room, and she set us up with a whole series of Lotus spreadsheets. Dang. And she taught me how to use the spreadsheets and how to do the programming so we could keep track of our sales and pay out the commissions. And I was like, I've never touched a computer before in my life. Wow. So all this, I can do this. I've done it on paper. I'm a numbers gal. I can do it. So I became CFO. Dang. When Marcia moved away, then I became president of the corporation. I became CEO, and because nobody else wanted to. So after a couple years, my partner who had the mom in Minneapolis, she dreamed up this idea of really focusing on relocating professionals, people who are coming to Chicago for corporate needs, because they typically had a relocation fee that they could pay to a real estate person who was helping them. Okay. So in addition to getting the fee from the landlord, we could get a fee from the person. So then we weren't limited to those listings that we had agreements with landlords.
Nice.
And so she was really spearheaded that. She got a lot of resistance from all of us because she was like, we're doing it now. And we're like, no, we can't, have to do it slowly. Anyway, at one point we had like 15 sales agents, which was great. But when
Dang.
we narrowed down for a bit and focused on this relocation consulting thing. And it became quite successful. We were really known as a relocation consulting firm, a little boutique relocation consulting firm. And we developed a way of doing business that was fairly unique in the market. So we did that for a while. And then after a few years, the business started to shift. The market started to shift. Things were changing. And there were 3 partners left. And we all could tell very easily what we would need to do differently in order to accommodate those changes.
Yeah.
But each of the 3 of us had a reason to leave Chicago.
Okay.
One wanted to move to the suburbs and get married and start having babies. One wanted to move to Minneapolis to be closer to her aging parents and take care of them. Yeah. And I wanted to go back to LA to be with my now husband, Paul. So we decided it's been a nice run, a good run.
Yeah.
Bye. We walked away.
Which brings us to another reinvention. And a lot of us women don't talk about this, but we have to become a wife. And I mean, we don't have to, we choose to.
Yeah.
And that is a whole nother set of responsibilities, ideas, ways to present yourself, ways to get some feedback and some support and love. Tell me about how you and Paul met.
That's a long story.
Is it?
So when I came back from the tour of 42nd Street, it was October of 86.
Okay.
And I came home and I wasn't quite sure, what was it turned out I got cats and I left in January and went and did that. But this was October and I didn't know what was going to happen next. So I went to take a break for like a minute. And one day a friend of mine called, Linda Bergman.
Nice.
A friend of mine called, and her husband and I had met on the tour of Annie. We both were performers in the tour of Annie. Okay. And she called and she said that they were doing a surprise birthday video for a man named Tom Hatton. Now, Tom was kind of big in LA. Tom had been ambassador in a playhouse. He had hosted a Popeye cartoon show with little kids wearing a little sailor outfit, and he was known for kids could write a squiggle and he'd draw a cartoon around the squiggle.
Oh, yeah.
So he'd done that, and he'd also been a host of the Family Film Festival on the weekends where he'd sit in some little cardigan with a rolling projector and tell stories about the old movie in between. And then he was KNX News Radio entertainment reporter for 5 minutes every day. Even when we were on the tour with Annie, he did that every day. But Tom was turning 60. That was really old. Oh, God. Yeah. But Chuck and Linda and Paul and his late wife Sue, they had all started doing these funny birthday videos for each other along the way. This had become kind of a thing that they did. And they were doing one for Tom. Okay. And Linda called me up and said, we're doing this birthday video for Tom and we need people in this scene we're shooting tomorrow. We just need bodies. And I said, I'm there. So it was shooting at Chuck's mom's house in Beverly Hills. So I went there and Linda wrote it, Paul shot it and edited it. It was basically a 30, maybe 45-minute remake of Sunset Boulevard, the film, that they called Sunset Plaza Drive. Keen Curtis, who had been Warbucks on their San Francisco tour of Annie, and you look up Keen, he was a well-known actor. Okay. Keen Curtis, they did gender reversal. So he was Norman Desmond and did the most extraordinary Gloria Swanson impression. And Linda was playing Josephine Gillis, so they switched. But they did everything down to the, falling in the pool and the reflection. Paul was like, how are we going to do I can put plastic around the camera. That's not going to work. And at the time, and he was in the bedroom and they had these big mirrored glass doors in the closet. And he said, can I take that door off the hinges if I put it back? God. Chuck's like, sure. They put the mirror door at the bottom of the pool. And
No.
they shot through plastic, and Linda was in the water, and Catherine was like moving her legs around so she looked like, and they shot the reflective, yeah, yeah. So
Does this film still exist?
we have it. But the day I met Paul was
Yeah.
at Chuck's mom's house in Beverly
Oh
Hills,
my
and it was the
God.
scene where Norma Desmond is coming down the staircase and then says, "I'm ready for my close up now, Mr.
Yeah.
DeMille." Yeah, and so I and like three other people were on the staircase as the reporters,
Oh.
including Paul's late wife. We were both
Oh yeah.
there. I met Paul and his late wife in the same day,
Oh
and
my
Paul
God.
knows the exact date because of the slate on the scene.
Oh.
So that was the day I met them. Then there was another day of shooting by the pool
Yeah.
in Zelza. And that was it. Then we went to the birthday party and I saw the end result, this, film.
Yeah.
And so, but that's where I met both of them. And then they invited me to their home at a Christmas party in December, which was lovely. And so we were just kind of acquaintances. Paul says that he and Sue used to, after they first met me, used to say, Terry's so cool. Who do we know we can set her up with? It's
Aw.
like, none of my friends are good enough. So, and then I left town in January because I left town to go to
Right.
Getz.
Right.
So we
Oh my
sort of
gosh.
became acquaintances, not close
Yeah.
friends, but acquaintances.
Yeah.
And then I left town. I went on the road with Getz in 87, 88, 89, and it was August of 88. I remember I was standing in the hotel lobby of this hotel in Fresno,
Okay.
and the guy behind the counter said, "No, Terry Mason's not in her room. I could take a message." And I said, "I'm Terry Mason." And so, "Oh, okay, hang on." And he put the thing on. I said, "You can pick up the call across the lobby over there at that phone." Okay. So I went over there. I said, "Hi, I'm Terry." It was Linda to let me know that Sue had taken her life.
Oh, right. Oh my gosh.
And I was just like, what?
Yeah.
And Sue and Linda was like, we're having a memorial on this date. I was like, I'm touring, I can't come.
Oh.
So I called my dearest friend, who is still my dearest friend, Stacy, and she was in LA. And just coincidentally, if you believe in coincidences, she had been volunteering at a suicide hotline at the time.
Oh
But that was not relevant really to the story. But I called her and said, "I need you to do a huge favor for me." And I explained what had happened. And I said, "I want you to go to the Bodhi Tree," which was a New Age bookstore that no longer exists. And I said, "There's a particular book I want you to get. It's still my favorite book. It's out of print, but it's still my favorite book."
Okay.
And I said, "I need you to pick up this book and then drop it off at this man's house on the day of the service." Wow. And she said, "It's going to have to be really early in the morning because I have to go to work." So that's fine. It can be early. And she said, "I'm in, I'll do it." And so she did. She went and got the book. And the book is called Appearances, Clearings Through the Masks of Our Existence.
Wow.
It's by a woman named Rusty Burkus.
Okay.
And it has beautiful, I forget the name of the illustrator, and that's terrible because the illustrations are beautiful. It's basically one sentence on every page with a beautiful illustration. Oh. The first sentence is, "Wherever you are at this moment is exactly where you are supposed to be, no matter how things may seem to appear."
Wow. I think I'll go look for that book.
Every page
Oh my gosh.
is
Beautiful.
Yeah. So Stacy rang Paul the night before the service, had asked his family to leave him alone. He just wanted to be there alone. Yeah. So when the doorbell rang at like 8:00 in the morning, he answered the door and it was Stacy. And Paul said he remembers light shining behind her head, like she's blonde. Light shining behind, like a sort of a halo or something. And she just said, "This is from Terry Mason. She wanted you to have this today."
Oh my gosh.
He said, "I don't remember I've even thanked her." He took it from her, closed the door, and he said he stood there in his entryway of his home and read the entire book cover to cover.
Oh my gosh.
And he said it set him up to be whole that whole day.
Wow.
Yeah. So
wow, what a gift.
It was extraordinary. And
yes.
And so then from then I would send him a card just once in a while. Again, we weren't close friends. We still weren't close friends. I just felt so badly that this terrible thing had happened to him,
Right.
And so as Paul kind of started coming out of his grief, his friends started to say, "You should start dating again. You should see people." And he's like, never been good at dating, So we had a tough time with that. but he did remember, he was still very close to Chuck and Linda. And he
Yeah.
remembers asking them one time, whatever happened to Terry Mason? She was really cool. I really liked her a lot. And at this point, I was still in Chicago. And Gary and I were not engaged to be married anymore, but we were
Okay.
still kind of working on the relationship. And he had left to Chicago to go on the road with Les Mis. So he wasn't even there with me when I was doing my whole real estate thing.
Okay.
So, it was kind of a whole transition period. But I was not willing to give up the relationship just because he didn't want to get married when we wanted to get married. I kind of was like relieved when that happened anyway. But it was still kind of, the relationship wasn't solid. We were just working through it.
Yeah.
And Chuck and Linda was like, well, she's in Chicago. She's kind of breaking up with somebody, And so then he kept on, he would like go on dates or whatever. And then he, kept on checking in with them. That was my life, according to Chuck. She's still breaking up with that guy. So then at one point he asked the question again. He said, no, she actually did break up with him.
Okay.
Really? Oh, so then he asked their daughter, Sarah, do you think you can get me Terry Mason's phone number? She was 13 at the time. And Sarah said, yes, I think I could do that for you. So she got him the number. And as he was driving away, he picked up his car phone, the size of a Buick, and he called me on this car phone. And lo and behold, I answered, and he burst out laughing. And he explained, he said, this is Paul Chafiki. And I was like, oh my God, And so we chatted, and within 20 minutes, I laughed, guffawed, 4 or 5 times, which was like, this is so lovely. I haven't laughed in such a long time.
Yeah.
But another coincidence, if you believe in them, that very day, this was October, that very day, I had made my air reservations for Christmas.
Oh.
And every Christmas, even when I lived in Chicago, I would fly to Northern California to visit my parents who still live there, and then fly back to Chicago. Well, now that I'd broken up with Gary, I'd broken up in the spring, now that I'd broken up with Gary and I was really on my own, I was just like, I think, I haven't seen my LA friends in 5 years.
Wow.
I think I want to fly to LA for one night after visiting my parents and then go back to Chicago. So I made those reservations to go to visit, and then one night in LA and then back to Chicago. I had made those air reservations that day.
I love it.
That day.
Love it.
So when he's talking to me, and I called Stacy and I said, I'm coming to LA on December 28th. Can I have an open house at your house? And can we have friends come over? Can I stay with you? And she said, yes, of course. All of it, So when Paul called, I was like, I'm going to be in LA in December and I'm having a party and I want you to come.
That's the most beautiful story ever. Love that.
So if you give me just 2 more minutes.
Please.
I had picked up a book. It was actually in workbook form. It had not been fully published yet, by a woman named Sonia Choquette, who was a psychic who lived in Chicago.
Can you spell the last name?
Choquette.
I'm going to put that in. Okay, go ahead.
Sonia Choquette. It was called The Psychic Pathway.
Okay. Wow. Good memory.
And
right.
she was a full-blown psychic. Her mom was a psychic. Her siblings were all psychic. It was just like, this has been, in her life forever. And this book was like a workbook on how to develop your higher intuitive powers.
I want
not
that
to
book.
become psychic like, she is, but to develop your own intuition more strongly, so that you can connect to your own higher power and get those, those messages more clearly.
Love it.
I picked this up 5 or 6 months prior. After I broke up with Gary, I picked it up and I started reading it, which is like, this is good.
Nice.
And it's a wonderful, each chapter, it's gives you an exercise to do before you read the next. So you're expected to spend a week or 2 between chapters so you can build up your talents and skills to do these things.
Yeah.
And finally, I think it was chapter 6 or 7 or 8 or something like that, she said, well, finally in my life, I realized that I wanted to find my life partner, as she wrote. And and she said, and being a psychic, you'd think that I would just know, but no, that's not true. But she said, I did create a long list, very detailed list of what I wanted in a partner. I envisioned a vision of what I wanted, and it was like a photographic image. I knew exactly what he looked like. And I had very, very specific things that in a long list, very specific things.
Yeah.
And I meditated and I came upon this vision. And so I had a very clear view of what I wanted in a partner. And she said one day I was out with a friend and he and I had gone jogging and we went back to his place and he was going to change it. Then we were going to go out for coffee. And he said, a friend of mine's going to stop by because he wants to pick this up. And so if he comes, you can just give it to him and let him know that I'm, in the shower. And so the doorbell rang and it was my guy, she said. And of course he doesn't know he's my guy, so now what? So she goes on to tell her story. But her whole message is, get very clear about what you want, meditate, and get the image of who this person is. Nice. So I'm like, oh, this sounds very advanced. She's so much more advanced than I am in this stuff. So, I was like making a list. I was going, I don't know how picky I want to be. I just want, I want someone to be funny. I want them to be caring and compassionate. I want them to, but she had like a skiing level X. I mean, she was like very specific about every single thing she wanted this person to be. And I'm like, whoa, I'm going to make a list, but maybe not that specific. Yeah. But then I did start to meditate and try to come up with an image. I figured, what the hell? So, and I was meditating regularly at that point. I still do. I was meditating to, specifically asking the universe to provide me with some visual of who my partner was going to be. And one time I was meditating, Janice, and I came upon an image popped up. I'm like, and then it kind of faded, but then I was like, stay with it, Terry, stay with it. And it kind of came back. It was the back, head, and shoulders of a person with long, dark hair and a light shining from above.
Wow.
But that's all I got.
Okay. That's cool.
Okay. It's a start.
Yeah.
So I kept on meditating and I kept on, asking for more, thinking, turn around. Just a profile would be helpful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just kept on meditating, but that's still the only image that ever organically came out of meditation. Was just that one image. I was like, I just kept on going with it and that was it, but it was in my head. So So I'm at Stacy's party, the open house, and this is like from 2 to 10 p.m. It's like, if you can stop by, stop by. If you can't, if you can call me, I'd love to talk to you. But it's nothing structured. Yeah. And I didn't know who would make it. I mean, it's December 28th and people are away or, So, so at one point I was in the kitchen talking on the phone with somebody who couldn't make it. And the doorbell rang. And from where I was sitting in the kitchen, I could see through the living room to the front entryway. And there's like this lattice in between the two. To sort of, you could kind of see through it, kind of a pattern, cutout pattern. Yeah. And so Stacy went to the door and opened it up, and the door opened in front of the lattice. And then I heard laughter, and I heard it was Paul, because I could tell because we've been talking frequently. Oh yeah. At that point, and so I could hear his laugh. It's like, oh, Paul's here. I was still talking to my friend. Paul's here. That's cool. And then the door closed, and there was an overhead light in the entryway, and his back was to me, and his hair was down to here. Oh my gosh. I knew him when his hair was here. Yeah. I didn't know his hair was long. Now, mind you, I was so tired chatting on the phone with my friend. The realization of that didn't hit me right away. Okay. It didn't hit me right away. But Paul came in, I got off the phone, he came in, we sat down with Stacy, started chatting, somehow got around to the fact that they had met once before, and they were both, oh, you were the, and they both burst into tears. That was a moment. Yeah. So then a group of people came, and Paul started saying, I should go. And I said, no, stay. And at one point I went to the kitchen to help Stacy with food. And Stacy goes, that Paul's really cute. I said, I know, isn't he sweet? He likes you. I said, I know, I like him too. No, Terry, he likes you. He likes you. No, you mean like he likes me? Yeah, he likes you. Oh, really? Yes, for sure. He likes you. I'm like, okay. Wow. So I went back and sat down on the sofa next to him going, huh.
I'll have to think about this seriously.
Yeah, interesting. I really hadn't, my conscious brain hadn't gone there yet. But then I started, so then he kept on saying, as people came and went, he kept on saying, I should go. And I said, no, stay. Well, Stace and her husband went to bed at like 10, and the two of us sat and stayed on the sofa talking till 2 a.m. Oh my gosh. Just And he finally said, I really should probably go. I said, yeah, you probably should, because I had to get up and fly back to Chicago the next morning.
Oh, wow. Right.
And so I walked him to the door, and I took his face in my hands, and I just gave him a little kiss.
Yeah.
And he left. And we both knew something was there.
Very special.
Didn't know what we'd do, because I was flying back to Chicago, and that's where I lived. And so we talked the next day after I got home, and then we talked New Year's Eve, both when it was midnight in Chicago and in LA. And then from that point on, there wasn't a day that we didn't speak.
Oh, I love
and
it.
He came to visit me in February, and then that was it. Now the vision, though, after I went back to Chicago, I did my meditation again. And and the vision came, and it was like the two images went like this in my brain. And I was just like, oh,
wow. There it is.
Exactly. There it is. So, yeah.
There he is.
That's how Paul and I met. It's a really long story.
It's a beautiful, beautiful serendipitous story, and I loved every second of it. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh.
Now, dear listeners, this lovely Paul Chapikian that we're discussing, I had the pleasure of doing an interview with him. It ended up being in two parts because, like Terry, he is very interesting to talk to, and the time just flies, and it's so easy to talk to Paul Chapikian. Anyway, please check out those two previous episodes because both these people are fascinating, and I know you're going to understand how Terry fell in love with this wonderful man. So, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So fantastic. Now, I know we're getting into some time here, but I still would love to talk to you about the other role you took on, and that was caregiver to your father to bring back into this family dynamic situation. Can you kind of tell us about the journey where Dad came to live with you? What was that?
Yeah. So as I said before, my mom was very active. She rode her bike everywhere. She led hikes. She was, extremely active and very healthy. My dad was a type 1 diabetic, and I kind of grew up with the information that he would die young. That was, that's what happens with type 1 diabetics. They don't live as long as other people, and he's going to live a full life, but at some point he will die, and he will die younger than most. So I kind of had that in my head. He retired early. He retired, I think, at 57 or something.
Yeah.
But he was also very vigilant. He took really good care of himself as a diabetic. He was very rigorous in his diet and taking his tests, taking his insulin. He was very, very good. So he ended up living a relatively healthy life. He had vision issues. He had a heart problem that was diagnosed at one point, and he had a quadruple bypass. And this was in the year 2001. And he had the quadruple bypass in June. And my mom, I went up to my parents' house to be with them during that time. And my mom was devastated because she sang with a church choir at that time. And they had planned this huge European tour the third week of July. And she said, I can't go. And I said, oh no, you have to go. You absolutely have to go. And she's like, but I can't. Your father just had heart surgery. And I said, I can stay here. And I could. I had a laptop that I could work from remotely. I work remotely at home. So, I just said, I can stay with Dad. I'll be here. You really need to go. This is so important to you. And it's important for your spirit to do this. And Dad, said, yeah, you should. You really need to go. Terry can be here. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then they started talking to me privately, and my mom was like, I really don't think I should go. My dad saying, I can't believe she's going to leave. And I'm like, Dad, you can't say that to me when you're saying to her. It's okay to go. So I got him in a room together, and I said, okay, Mom, you're saying you don't think you should go. Dad, you're saying you can't believe she's going to leave. What's it going to be?
The floor is yours.
Yeah. So they both looked at each other like, sheepishly. And Dad was like, I I really do think you should go. And I was like, are you sure? Because I should. She said, no, I think you should. I really do. And she said, well, I really want to. She said, I know you want to. So I think you should. So they worked it out, and Mom did go, and I stayed with Dad. And she was gone for 3 weeks, and Dad had a really rough recovery. He was in and out of the hospital.
Oh, gosh.
He had fluid issues. It was really tough for him.
Yeah.
And when I picked her up at the church parking lot, when she came home and got off the bus, she was just so excited and so happy. And this is back in the 2001, so you couldn't send email, or we didn't have that. So we'd send a couple postcards to her and stuff, but she didn't know what had really been going on, and I would never tell her while she was away anyway. Right. Yeah. But and Dad was back in the hospital the day she got home, so she was like, can't wait to get home and see her father. And I said, well, Mom, he's back in the hospital. She was just like,
no. Yeah.
She had been so excited, and I could see just all the air just came out of her, and I just said, it's all right. He's getting the care he needs. He's probably going to get home in a couple of days, and we'll go see him in the morning. And she was just like, oh my God. And I said, it's okay. It's all right. So we worked that out. He did come home, and he was still having a difficult recovery, but he was, being treated. And I finally, decided I was going to leave. So I went back to LA, and then I had surgery at the end of July. I had throat surgery.
Oh gosh.
That's another story. So I had throat surgery, and then in August, he was getting better, but still, having some tough times.
Yeah.
And one morning at 5:00 in the morning in late August, the phone rang, and I was sure that it was Mom to tell me that Dad had died.
Yeah, yeah.
It was Dad to tell me that Mom had died.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh
my reaction exactly. Completely unexpected. And because she had no known medical issues, they did an autopsy.
Yeah.
And she had had a heart attack 3 days prior that she didn't recognize as a heart attack. And the day that she died, it was August 29th, and it was hot. It was in Northern California that day. And she led a kids hike in the morning at a nature preserve that she volunteered at. She led a kids hike in the morning. In the afternoon, she was working on a gardening project there. But she started feeling a little nauseous, and she decided to go home. And she drove home, and she called the advice nurse at Kaiser, explained what was going on. And they said, it's probably just the heat, because you're out in the heat. So, have a very light dinner and get some rest. And if you're still feeling symptoms tomorrow, then give us a call. And she went to sleep and never woke up. She had congestive heart failure. So
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, but it was a shock, needless to say, right?
Yeah.
And Dad was here needing care.
Yep.
And now alone, so obviously my brother and Paul and I, we all, converged on the house going, Yeah. And so we just started to support him. We got some caregivers to come in to be with him and to take care of him.
Yeah.
And then we scheduled Mom's service for September 8th. And he had gone back in the hospital, and they let him out with oxygen. Okay. They let him out for the service, which was great. But then he had to go back. And then he came out, I think, on the 9th. He was back. He was okay to come home. Yeah. And then we were talking about what to do. I mean, he could stay in his home, and we'd have living care for him. My brother had just moved to Eugene, Oregon, and they just bought a house, and he could move there, buy something near them, and be close to them. Okay. Paul and I lived in a condo in Sherman Oaks, and so he could come down here and buy a house near us and be close to us. And at one point in this whole discussion of what's going to happen, where, whatever, I helped him get dressed one morning, and then he was just lying down in the bed after I put his shoes on. And he said, come here for a sec. And I laid down next to him. He said, what about if you and me and Paul get in a house together?
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, that's a great idea. Let me talk to Paul.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So I did talk to Paul. And of course, Paul, being the amazing, generous spirit that he is, he's like, my initial reaction is, yes, let's do it. And my second thing is we should probably talk about it. I said, yeah, we should. We should discuss what it actually will mean, to live together. And so, but we decided that is what we're going to do. And so on September 10th, Paul said, I'm going back to LA and start looking for a house for us, So he did. And the next morning was 9/11.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So Paul calls me up and says, do you have the TV on? I said, no, turn it on. And I did.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we were apart when that happened. And of course, you recall when that happened, nobody knew what the hell was going on and what was going to happen next. And to be apart was terrifying.
Yes.
He was like, I'm going to get right back in the car and drive back up there now. And I said, no, don't. We don't know what's happening. So we, obviously we stayed in touch and worked through it. But
oh my God.
Yeah, 2001 was a banner year. So he started looking for a house, and then I ended up, Paul's mom stayed with my dad and the caregivers for a while, and then I came back down to LA. We looked at houses together. We decided on the house that we moved into, and then I went up north to close down my parents' house, and this is kind of a delicate balance. We were there for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
The last Thanksgiving, and my brother and sister-in-law and niece came down. So we had Thanksgiving together. But then I had to get Dad down to LA, and then he moved into a board and care while the movers came and brought the stuff.
Oh, right.
Just got everything done and then drove his car down to be here. But then I had to, Dad was in the board and care being, can I get in the house now, please? And not yet, because he needed his stuff. So and we got all moved in, and it was like December, his birthday was December 12th. And then, so we celebrated his birthday, and then I sat there for a minute and went, Christmas. Oh no! Because we had always spent Christmas at my parents' house.
Oh my gosh.
I hadn't even thought about it. I was so busy doing everything else.
Well, sure.
I hadn't even thought about it. And I was just like, oh no! So I had this terrible, sad image of Paul and me and Dad and his mom sitting around the table for Christmas dinner. I'm like, oh my God. Because my brother was not going to come down all the way from Oregon. So I planned a Christmas dinner, and I reached out to friends to have a Christmas Day open house on Christmas afternoon. And I said, I know you probably have other things you're doing, and I bless you for everything you're planning, but if you could come by anytime between 2 and 5 just for like 15 minutes to fill our house with Christmas joy, it would be such a gift to us right now. And sure enough, a lot of people, did come by. It was not like a big crowd, but a few people here, a few people there, and it was lovely. We played music, and Dad was able to visit with people. Some he knew, some who were new to him. And at one point, a couple that had actually befriended Chuck and Linda. She had been on jury duty with Linda, and they had befriended Chuck and Linda, and they actually lived up the street from us. Oh, and we knew that. We knew they lived close by. At one point earlier, and we'd been over to their house with Chuck and Linda, but they came down. So Phil and Sandy came down, and I was checking on the turkey, and I just said, and Dad and Phil were getting along famously. Phil had been a drummer, Dad had been a drummer, there was this whole connection, right? And I was just like, you guys really should stay for dinner. And she said, oh, I'm making prime rib. And I said, make it tomorrow, stay for dinner. And she said, well, only if you come over and join us for prime rib tomorrow. I said, that's a deal. I will do that.
I could do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they stayed for dinner. So here's another funny little story.
Yeah.
We're sitting at dinner. We're having dinner, and Phil, like I said, he's a professional drummer, and he said he had played with Sammy Davis Jr. for like 8 years. And I said, God, that's awesome. We saw him in concert. Remember, Dad? We saw him at concert at Circle Star Theater in San Carlos. And Phil said, you're kidding. And I said, no. When was that? I said, well, I thought back, and I gave him an approximate year. And he said, oh my God, that's when I started working with him.
It was me.
you saw me. And he said, when my first night, I flew in from LA and had like 15 minutes with the conductor just walking through main cues, and I was sight reading the book the entire night. And when they introduced the band, Sammy introduced me as saying, this guy just flew in, and Dad and I looked at each other and we went, we were there that night. Because Dad and I both were blown away that this drummer had no rehearsal and it was playing like that.
Oh,
and my dad was just like, this guy's incredible. And here we are having dinner with him.
Dang.
So it turned out to be a really good Christmas.
Wow. So this title of the show has just changed from Reinvention to the Serendipitous Life of Terry Mason. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Here's just a couple of snippets that I'm going to throw in there too for me.
Okay.
Terry was in 42nd Street.
Yes.
I, as a young mom, needing to find some other thing to do, decided to learn how to tap dance. And tried out for just a little chorus line kicking around for 42nd Street in the chorus back at the CLO SBC.
Good for you.
One connection there. Then my father didn't last as long as your father, but he had quadruple bypass. Mm. And talk about in and out of the hospital. My mind was right there with you. It's extremely difficult. And so my heart goes out because I know exactly. And then he was a drummer.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny.
I mean, there's just three things, and I'm sure something else will pop into my head. But every time you were talking about another story, I'm like, hi, Dad. Hi, Dad.
So funny.
Hi, Dad. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Crazy. That's so funny.
Which brings me to what I have here on a question of what surrounds you with all this wonderful serendipity stuff. And I'll tell you my story first, but what brings them into your presence? So when my mom passed away, after the funeral, I was getting ready to fly back to California, and my sisters all surrounded me and came with me to the little transport station where you would travel, take a van from Mankato to Minneapolis. And it was a cloudy day, little thunder in the distance, and I love thunderstorms. I absolutely, and I would sit on the porch with my mom all the time to listen to these thunderstorms. So I was just like, okay, this is cool. I love this. So thank you for that send off. And we're sitting in this little office, and they have a TV on the side of the wall there. And it's just a variety show. And some woman gets up to sing, and she sings Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And so my sister Ann says to me, well, there you go, Janny Pat. Mom is just sending you off on one of her most favorite songs ever. And I didn't know that at the time. I said, that's one of her favorite songs. I mean, I know we watch the movie almost every year, but I didn't realize it was one of her favorite songs. And I said, oh, that's really cool. But the weird part is that this song pops up at the strangest times on the radio, on some scrolling thing I do whenever I think about or need my mother. That song pops into the ecos somehow. And I was like, okay, well, that's Mom. Thank you very much. And I'm going to put a little picture in there because here's a picture of her. Where's the camera? And there's a little picture of Mommy there. And I'm going to put a still shot of that because my niece made that for us. And then for my dad, passed away when I was 18. Was thinking about them and some other reason Dad came into mind. I think it was someone was in the Navy. And so I immediately think of my dad. And so one day I said out loud, all right, Dad, so I've got Somewhere Over the Rainbow from Mom. What can I see from you? And this monarch butterfly flies around, stops, lands on this little porch and sits there for, I don't know, 30 seconds, whatever, and then flies off. I go, okay, thank you very much. So every time I see a monarch butterfly, thank you, Dad. It's good to see you. So is there anything that brings them to you in that kind of way?
Mom. There are, in Northern California and Southern California, there are birds. They're a kind of dove, I think. And in Northern California, I would see them and I would always hear them. So when they
Yeah.
would call, ooh, 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 that's like the
Yeah.
sound they made. So
Hmm.
so I would hear them in Southern California, would see them, but I never heard them. They never made noise. So
Mm-hmm.
after we moved into the house, after Mom died, and we were here probably the first or second day, I
Yeah.
saw one of them up on a phone wire, and then I heard, ooh, ooh, ooh. I'm like, hi, Mom.
Ah,
Come to
yes.
check up on us. We're here now. You know.
Love it.
And
Yeah.
after Dad died, I saw two of them on the phone wire, and they both, ooh, ooh. I'm like,
Morning doves.
hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
Oh, I love that. I love
So now
that.
whenever I see two, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's them, and I always listen to hear them
Of
call.
course.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so we go from very beautiful, loving family stories, but we are now living in a very chaotic time where free speech is being threatened, among other things. And you are also an advocate board member of the Peace Alliance organization. And how did you initially get involved in this very important organization?
Okay, this goes back to my touring in 42nd Street. When I was in 42nd Street in LA, it was 1984. And some of the guys in the show were talking about this woman who would speak on Sunday mornings, kind of a church-like experience, but not church. Her name is
Okay.
Marianne Williamson. I never went to hear her speak, but then when I heard that she'd written a book, several books, I picked up one of her books one time and I was really impressed. I thought she was an extraordinary writer. And she wrote a book called A Return to Love, which she said is a Cliff Notes version of a book called The Course in Miracles. And
Oh,
The Course in Miracles is a rather big book, and it has 365 meditations. And the point is, you go one a day for a year to
nice.
complete the course.
Okay.
And I was
Yeah.
like, I think I'd like to do that. So I pick up The Course in Miracles. It's a big book when you're traveling. It's
Oh, really?
big. So,
Lot to
but
ask.
I started doing it. I did the course while I was on the road. And it was very spiritually deep. It really kind of connects you with a lot of stuff. So I started this whole spiritual thing a long time ago. I read the book, and then I kind of was more aware of Marianne as time went by in the 90s, and read a couple more of her books, and I would hear her speak when she was on shows and doing things or radio. And at one point, I moved to California. I was with Paul, and a friend of mine was also very appreciative of her work, and she was coming to do a seminar, a day and a half seminar in the Marina Del Rey. And my friend Marcy said, do you want to go? And I said, I think I do. I think I would like to go, but I'd like Paul to come too. And she had her partner Ben, and I said, let's all four of us go. And I said, great. So I talked to Paul about it, and Paul's like, I'm in, let's do it. So we went, and it was a day and a half workshop, essentially, with her speaking. Her whole arc for the day and a half was starting with your own personal sense of yourself and what you are and what you bring, how you respond to things in the world. And then with your immediate family and how you respond to them and how you can contribute to your immediate family, and then to your immediate community, and how you react to the postman and the grocery clerk and just all that sort of community. And then
connection.
and then beyond. So the whole day and a half kind of grew. And at the end of the whole thing, it's like what you can do globally, and how you can contribute to the global spiritual health and well-being of the planet. And she said there is a piece of legislation that is currently before Congress to create a cabinet-level Department of Peace. And it was submitted by Dennis Kucinich, and he was a congressman at the time. And he said there's a table in the back. If you're interested, you can become a part of that and learn more about it. I was like, well, that sounds interesting. So I went to the back and I talked to whoever was there, and I picked up a flyer, and I was like, I think I'm curious about this. Now, this was after my dad had died.
Okay.
So I was kind of had space in my life. I had room to bring something else in. And so this was 2005. And so I called and I got in touch with them, and one thing after another, and I got to connect with them. I went to a training day and learned about lobbying and learned about peace as a broader concept than just sort of kumbaya, strategic and tactical approaches toward peace. The fact that universities had courses and degrees in peace building and peace,
fantastic.
Advocacy, and learned about all these things that were happening that I had no clue about.
Right.
And Marianne had been co-founder of this group called the Peace Alliance, that it's essentially was created to support this legislation to create a Department of Peace. That was its only focus at that time. And they started having national conferences. I went that fall in 2005 for the national conference, where they spend like a day and a half teaching you how to lobby, teaching you how to speak about the bill, and then on Monday you go lobby your member of Congress and go meet with them, and you set up the appointment in advance. They teach you how. So I learned about all of that. I went and lobbied Congress, which is a fun thing to do, by the way.
Yeah.
So much fun. Oh my God. So much fun. I highly recommend it.
Okay.
And so I became involved at that point. In 2009, I was asked to be on the board. And I joined the board at that time, and things have evolved in the organization over time. We have a much broader focus now.
Yeah.
And you're right, there's a lot going on right now.
There's a building called the Department of Institute of Peace or something like that. Isn't there a building?
USIP.
Yes. What is?
United States Institute of Peace. It was enacted in Reagan's period, I believe. And Trump, the Musk era of Trump has taken it down.
It's gone?
They invaded it. They illegally took control of it, and it no longer, the institute no longer exists. It's horrific. And it was one of the first agencies that they eliminated, and one of the first tests of the power being usurped. Yeah.
This is insane. It's such insanity.
It is.
I can't even, I don't know where to start. And Peace Alliance is still strong though, right?
Yeah.
You have that. Please tell us where to find it.
So peacealliance.org is our website. I encourage people to click on the Join Us button and sign up to get our emails. We don't spam you. We don't send a boatload of stuff, but we have been more frequently since January been sending out actions. And we've done that for years. And our system is set up so that based on your address information, it can figure out who your elected officials are, from the federal to the state to the local level. And we typically are focusing on federal. We still have a bill to create a cabinet level Department of Peace. It's Department of Peace building. That legislation is still in place. After Kucinich last Congress, Barbara Lee was the sponsor, and this year Ilhan Omar is the sponsor. So that legislation is continuing to exist. It's kind of our North Star. It's our great, hope. But there are many other things to legislate for, to advocate for, to let your elected officials know that you're in favor of. The organization is very specific that we are not against anything. We are in favor of. And we are not in favor of any individual candidate. We are in favor of policy. So, so we are in favor of gun safety. We are not anti-guns. We are in favor of women's health. We are not anti-anything. So, and we have 5 cornerstones of peace that are broken down so that people can focus their energies. But we have been sending out actions since January, specifically focusing on letting our elected officials know the policies that we are in favor of, so that we let them know, because especially now, even if your elected official is in alignment with your thinking, and you know that, letting them know that they are in alignment with your thinking is a powerful thing to do.
Huge.
Because they are sitting there on the hot seat, wondering what people think, wondering what their constituents think, hoping that their constituents agree with them. Right. And if you're not in agreement with your elected leader, even more so, let them know. Right. Because letting them know is a powerful thing that each of us can do as citizens.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we send out emails, and you could click on a link for the action, and
Great.
it tells you what it's about. Then you can see the email that's being sent to your elected official. You can edit it if you want to write more stuff or take things out. You can do whatever you
Nice.
want before you hit send, and it will
Cool.
go to your Congress people, your senators. So it'll go to all your elected officials.
And that's so helpful to have that information right there. You don't
Yeah.
have to sit there and search and do a bunch of, I don't know who to talk to. I don't know what
Yep.
phone number. It's all right there.
Yep.
So something that you can do as an individual if you
Hmm.
can't get out and protest and you can't, uh, I don't know, cancel
Yep.
your subscriptions. This is something that you can do, and it's all about
Yeah.
peace. It's not like you
Yes.
said, against anything else. It's the proponent of peace in our world, not
Yes.
just here in your little state, in your corner of the world. It's global peace
Yes.
that is
Exactly.
needed, and a great resource to have. So thank you very much for doing that and providing that for us.
Thank you.
Now, a last thing, you are retired, but you still have the Terry Mason Coach website or Instagram or something I
Sure.
can put in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So my website is coach4connection.com.
Nice.
But basically, I mean, I spent my corporate life for the last, I just retired for 28 years, and I call big corporate life. So I talked
Yeah.
earlier about my creative pursuits and my real estate in Chicago, and then I moved to LA to be with Paul, and I began working at what is now AT&T in staffing, and then moved into IT, and then AT&T outsourced their HR assistant support to Accenture, which is a very large consultancy. And I worked with a lot of Fortune 100 companies, helping them transform, helping them to go through change and disruption, helping them define the value stream for what they want to do, and helping executive leaders in doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And along the way, I became certified. This is sort of separate, but it was associated, certified as an organization and relationship systems coach through a
Okay.
company called CRR Global, which is Center for Right Relationship. And
Nice.
what that certification has to do is recognizing the system. So right now, you and I are sitting here. So I have energy, you have energy, but there is a system that's the collective energy of both of us.
Okay.
And the idea behind this coaching is that that third entity has creativity and intelligence of its own that
Mm,
is separate and apart from each of our creativity and intelligence. So when you think
interesting.
of a couple, a married couple, or a couple, or a family unit,
Hmm.
or a small business, so groups of any group of people, everyone there has their own point of view, which
Yeah.
is important. But the system itself has intelligence and it has creativity to solve problems and to improve situations.
Love
So
it.
the coaching I do has to do with helping those groups connect
Nice.
better, communicate better, and then I also work with individual executives.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for doing that. So, as we've said, this reinvention, and I don't want to be sexist, but I think of with women, we start at a very young age to try and learn our place, feel out what our dreams are, feel
Mm.
out where we can fit in, feel out in our family situation how we're supposed to act. And then you get out into the world, you follow your dreams, and then life steps in to serendipitously provide another avenue to walk through. But we constantly, men and women, are finding ourselves reinventing ourselves to just keep going, to just
Mm.
exist in a world that keeps changing so
Mm.
quickly. But along that way, these reinvention opportunities also bring in friends and family like you can create so magically. So
Mm.
it's powerful to hear your story, and there's so many stories out there that are so inspiring. I
Mm.
thank you for this opportunity. You've
Well,
been
thank you for the opportunity.
so gracious in sharing these wonderful and emotionally and inspiring ways that it's meant a lot to me today. So
Oh,
thank you.
thank you. Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
So, and scene. So, in the old acting performance thing. Thank you so much for joining us today on Family Dynamic Conversation Podcast. A huge thank you and a bunch of round of applause for my incredible guest, Terry Mason, from gracing the Broadway stage to guiding others as a counselor. Your journey is awe-inspiring. Thank you. Please, listeners, continue to support this performing arts. I cannot stress enough the idea of having a voice, having a creative voice, and how many people it reaches. And if you're supporting those voices, whether it be through paying for music, going to the shows, listening to your favorite programs, collectively, it is transformative and is much needed more than ever. Terry, your insights on family, healing, and personal transformation remind us that every story, whether told under the spotlight on the stage or just as a quiet moments of reflection, holds the power to connect, uplift, and heal. So if today's conversation resonated with you, please share it. Please subscribe. Please send it to someone that might feel that they've been heard and seen. And it's important right now more than ever to continue these kinds of conversations. Until next time, please stay curious. Please stay connected. Please keep the conversation going. Thank you again for showing up today. And thank you, Terry. Have a great day. Bye for now.